And Stephen, I just want to dive right into it. We have breaking news, and this is near and dear to my heart, and I could not be more thrilled to report this to the audience, but the absurd Tish James $500 million judgment against Trump for a victimless crime has been thrown out by an appeals court. And I wish I had a sound effect for applause or a stadium cheering. The court sided my exact argument that I made in Breaking the Law, which is that this is a violation of the Eighth Amendment. This is a cruel and unusual punishment. It was a victimless crime, and she assessed a $500 million penalty. I mean, it's just nothing but winning here. Is there anything more to say? Maybe there is. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think, like, what another miracle. Trump just keeps racking up win after win after win. It's time he gets a win for himself. This is huge.
That's right.
They tried to destroy his marriage, his family, his children, his corporation. They blocked him and his children from even running his own company. Now an en banc enclave of 5 appellate judges says, Engoron, James, you guys are crazy. You can't put a $500 billion fine on someone because you don't like their political leanings. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's very well said. And I'm glad you highlighted the part about the children, because this was the case where they tried to prevent all the kids from practicing, engaging in real estate, really doing any business in New York. It shows you the extent of the cruel and unusual nature of this, is that they were extending it to family members to such an insane degree that they actually had to take a few names off. They had so many names on, they had to take Trump family members off as the case went on, because even the left-wingers were going, hey, Tish, is a little much here. It's a little too much here. So it was such a flagrant abuse of power. And Tish James, we now know, is under investigation. But some of the details that people should be reminded of is that she was tweeting out how much Trump owed every day, because with interest, it kept going up. She still has $175 million as of today. I imagine that's going to get transferred back any minute here, that Trump had to put up on bond. The absurdity it has no ends in this particular case. Of all the cases, this was arguably the most absurd that I profiled, and that just makes the victory all the more glorious.
Yeah, just a couple of days ago, Trump was blasting music in the Rose Garden. He was out playing DJ. He needs to throw a party, a $175 million party. I mean, there's the money for the new ballroom that he wants, right? That Democrats say he's going to steal from the American taxpayer to build this gaudy ballroom unto himself. And he's like, actually, I'm the one putting up money, and anyone else that wants to put up money can do that. But yes, that money needs to be released. They should be paying him interest. Instead, they were charging him outrageous amounts of interest. This is an amazing announcement.
I like that point as well. Why not pay him now? Let's say they should pay him. They should pay him because they had his money. He could have been using that money, could have been accumulating, he could have invested in gold and be accumulating money at a decent clip. And instead, it's just sitting there in New York. I mean, what did they do with it? Are they making money off of it? They probably have it in some sort of a fund of some sort, because why just have it sit there? And so who knows what's going on there? And it was so blatantly cruel and unusual that you wonder if Tish James knew this was inevitable, because I feel like this was never going to get past the Supreme Court. It's interesting because in Breaking the Law, I was just reviewing this section prior to the show. And what I think is most noteworthy is that I had kind of assumed, the only thing I got not 100% correct, I got the argument 100% correct. I thought it might take all the way to the Supreme Court. So it's interesting that this appeals court threw it out, because it shows just how incredibly offensive the nature of the case was, that it didn't even make it all the way to the Supreme Court with 3 Trump picks on it. It got thrown out ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, I remember just recently I saw an interview with Eric Trump, and he said, my dad's very private about this, but our family has spent $500 million in legal bills.
Yeah.
And I think that, Alex, they didn't really care about the money. This whole thing was about shaming and humiliating and keeping Trump off the campaign trail. That's what this whole thing was about. They thought they would have him in jail before November 5th. But unfortunately, or fortunately, their plan did not go that way. Trump is too smart of a marketer. Next thing, he's at a bodega. Next thing, he's giving a speech at a park. He he was rolling with the punches, and he ended up coming through this, but not without spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why all of this cannot stand. And this is one of the reasons, Stephen, that I wrote this book is that this stuff, a lot of these dominoes are going to get toppled. And we all, I think, correctly have this cynical mindset that nothing ever happens to these people. There's no accountability. I get it completely. But things are a little different now. They're not entirely different. We're going to get disappointed. I know that the Epstein stuff it makes that clear. But we're gonna get some victories. They might not be as thorough as we would like, but this is a really big one. This is a 360-degree win for President Trump, and we still have Tish James under investigation, so it's only going to get better. How much better? I mean, she should go to jail as far as I'm concerned. She should be disbarred as far as I'm concerned. Will we get to that level? I don't know, but but what we will do is we will get some level of accountability that's new. So I just want people to be a little more encouraged, I think. And I know with your audience, do you feel like they're cynical, or do you feel like they're a little bit optimistic that we could actually see something good happen?
I would say it's a mix.
Yeah.
I've seen in the comments people saying like, "Bro, you're humiliating yourself if you think they're going to do
Yeah.
something," or "I'm tired of hearing this," or whatever. But I'm not tired because I see dominoes lining up, right? Like I see they just brought in Andrew Bailey, an attorney general, to work with the FBI. I see that they just put Ed Martin in charge of the auto pen scandal, Letitia
Yeah.
James, Adam Schiff, and others. So I see from reading hours a day that there are big players being put in, and I just think it takes time. I fully expect the law to come down hard on Letitia James. Mortgage fraud has an over 90% conviction rate.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't
And
get
it seems like
convicted,
she's dead to rights on this thing because
yeah,
even when her
she's
attorneys
toast.
are saying, yeah, it was a clerical error. I was like, I don't know about that. It just seems pretty far fetched.
Yeah, a clerical error that your dad was your husband. Give me a break.
Yeah. Right.
You guys were
Right.
cheating the system
Of
in order
course.
to get better
And she's an
rates.
expert in this thing. She's an expert. She took on the most powerful man on earth for the exact same thing, right? So she must know what she's doing.
Yeah, well, and Adam Schiff did it, and then a woman named Lisa at the Federal Reserve, she just got called out yesterday, and they showed the signatures, and they're like, "Oh man, she's dead to rights as well." Like, yeah, she won't lower interest rates for the rest of us, so she lies on an application to give herself better mortgage rates. She's also toast.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. But I want to talk a little bit about the Ed Martin situation because we're an Ed Martin fan podcast here at the Marlowe Show. Those of you who have not gotten through my entire show yesterday because it's a super long show, I would say it's like 40 minutes or so in. I do a deep dive on this big hit piece New York Times has about Ed Martin, how trying to take him out, trying to humiliate him simply because he wants to start enforcing the law. What's really, I think, interesting here is that when you're only taking flack when you're over the target, and they really see him as a deep threat. And I know Ed's personality; he's a fighter, and I don't think that people can take anything from him. So I think he's pretty well insulated to continue to do what he's doing. But just note that their tactics aren't really changing. They're still seeing this guy's a real threat, so we need to try to destroy him and humiliate him via the New York Times think pieces. I don't know if it's working anymore, but they're still trying those tactics, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Adam Schiff was calling in favors, if the
Yeah.
J6 people were
Yeah.
calling in favors. You have to remember, a lot of these people, they are very well connected, and they're not going to go down without a fight. But I think Adam Schiff, they've got the guy. Letitia James, they've got him. It just came out yesterday that Biden's own DOJ was saying, listen, I don't think you can be pardoning this many people with auto pen. Like you're not even reviewing anything.
Yeah.
And then multiple times it said, we need to hear from the president directly. It's highlighted. And he never reached out. So I think we're going to see some of these auto pens be reversed. I don't think that they're real pardons.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that we at least have to sort it out because, again, this is where The left busted Trump's chops on this in every single one of the 6 major cases that I go through in Breaking the Law. They all employ novel legal theories, and none of them rely on something that's pretty standard. We've seen this before, cut and dried. Similar stuff to the Tish James mortgage fraud stuff, which is all like this stuff is fundamental. I mean, people understand basically what's being alleged, what probably happened. It's not hard to sort it out. The Trump stuff was intentionally muddied and muddled and hard to sort out because they were all relying on arguments that no one had ever made, particularly against a former president. And that's one thing that I think we can really use here on the AutoPen thing is that maybe it's legal. It probably wasn't. But I'll tell you what, we may as well treat it as though we have no idea and make sure that everyone's hauled in, everyone's questioned, everyone's investigated, every stone is turned over. So at a minimum, people don't feel like they can just get away with creating, new rules and laws and new ways of governing that are clearly not what the people voted for without at least having some major hurdles to climb over. They've had none. Biden was just able to do this without any repercussions at all. There wasn't anyone even questioning him, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like you said, everything they went after Trump was novel legal theory. The stuff that they're going after Adam Schiff and Letitia James, number one, it's not Trump going after them. And number two, these are things that they convict people on every single day. There is a precedent. If you lie about a primary residence to put down a lower down payment and get a better interest rate, you have committed fraud. So I'm very encouraged. And Ed Martin, wouldn't it just be like poetic justice if Adam Schiff, who spent all of his energy blocking him from being U.S. District Attorney, now goes to jail because of the guy that Trump puts in to review the Adam Schiff case? I would love for that to play out.
Yeah, and the Schiff one's interesting because Schiff I don't feel like he's a rational actor, so you never know what kind of trouble he might have gotten into, which is interesting because a lot of the times the bad guys, I think, are careful in some ways because they can put themselves in the shoes of bad guys. Sometimes, it takes a crook to find a crook. I like to think of the one of my favorite action movies of all time, The Rock, where they got to get, Sean Connery, who, successfully broke out of Alcatraz to figure out how to break out of Alcatraz. Like, you got to summon the criminal to help you understand the crime sometimes. And I feel like, though, with Schiff, he's so nuts that maybe he doesn't even know what he was doing. And that's why I feel like he truly is a lunatic. We throw that word out a lot. I don't think most people are lunatics who are in the upper echelons of power. I find, Nancy Pelosi, I think, is completely rational and reasonable. We share no values, but I think I understand what she's doing. I don't know if I understand Pencilneck. He's so out there. It just reminds me, some of the stuff he says reminds me of, the perception that OJ believed he hadn't committed the murders, even after he was, even though he committed the murders, but he kind of acted like maybe he started to believe the bullshit by the end.
Yeah. It's interesting you point out it takes a crook to understand a crook. Well, the very person going after Letitia James is Sam Antar, the CFO that went to jail for fraud and money laundering for Crazy Eddies. So he's this Jewish Democrat in New York who didn't vote for Trump, not even a fan of Trump. He just hated the fact that Letitia James was breaking the law. That's the guy that's going to bring her down. It's not Donald J. Trump. So, but he even told me in an interview, he's like, Stephen, it takes a criminal to understand the criminal mind.
Amazing.
That's why I've got them. That's why the FBI was delivered evidence on a golden platter.
Amazing stuff. And I really do am so excited about this because there's only positive stuff to come from here. And Trump has unleashed a massive Truth Social truth bomb with no paragraph indentation. It looks like it's about 400 words. I will not read the whole thing on the air, but he's already moving on to Judge Juan Merchan, who I nominate to be investigated. I've been doing these reports that are sort of breakouts from Breaking the Law. And my number one person to investigate was Tish James. My number two is Juan Merchan because of the other New York case, Mershon controlled that courtroom in a way that I think was clearly unethical and likely illegal, and I think it's time to start investigating that as well. So, again, guys, this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book. One of those important reasons is this is a primer for stuff that's going to happen. It's I know I'm in salesman mode, but don't look at it that way. That's not the point. The point is I'm briefing you so that when we get this good news, you'll be able to sort it out. You'll be able to keep the cases straight. You'll be able to see where the investigations happen. I got a tweet today. Alex, those of us who listen to you in Breitbart and read your books already know this was coming. You are the Nostradamus of online news. Now, that's high praise, but I got a good track record. I'm not doing this stuff for fun. It's fun to go play with my kids downstairs. I'm doing this stuff because it's important to do. All right, Stephen, let's go to the one more thought on the auto pen from you. Do you feel like this is another one that could be Epstein level, where if nothing happens here, we could lose some momentum here from the base? Because I do. I feel like this is one where if people don't see some results on auto pen investigations, I think we're going to see some emotional unsubscription by midterm time.
See, and I kind of take the opposite, and that's just based off of videos because on the one hand, I think people absolutely want to see Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney and Dr. Fauci pay the price for lying, destroying evidence, killing millions of people. I think people absolutely want that. My worry is that they have already decided in their mind nothing's going to happen.
Interesting.
So unless I do a video about that person being in shackles, nobody's watching anymore. They've just kind of moved on. Now, if they are able to bring those people to heel and arrest them, I think it's going to be one of the biggest stories. It'll be a major success to run on, but I don't know that it interrupts the midterms as much. I do worry about the Epstein stuff a little bit more than that. Although I saw the other day in polling, it's losing steam. People are like, listen, Trump has done everything he can. Democrat judges stand between him and whatever is out there. And it may be a nothing burger. But Democrats, they're going to try to run on it. And Trump's just going to show them, this Democrat judge blocked me, this Democrat judge, and this Democrat judge. What am I supposed to do? So
interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I hope you're right. Because one of the things I call on people to do in breaking the law toward the end is don't get too discouraged if your favorite issue is not front burner. And I say this as someone who lived it, as someone who you risked it all career-wise to stand up for Trump and his border vision in immigration. At Breitbart, we put everything on the line for this. And then the last thing that Trump wanted to work on when he got into power the first time was immigration. And so it was just one of these things where it felt like I was taking crazy pills for a while, but then finally he got on it. And then now he's doing the best job in the history of the country when it comes to immigration enforcement. And it's only going to get better from here. We're just starting. So, just keep the faith, hold the line. And that's just a way to go. It's just a way. I highly recommend it. It's a better way to live. You keep a smile on your face more throughout the day. All right. Let's do a hard pivot.
Can I say one thing?
Please, of course.
I think most people don't understand how much is going on behind the scenes. So, for example, I saw a thing where Trump's energy secretary, he said, listen, it's going to take time. We lowered gas, but to go lower, it's going to take time. We've got to open, we've got to do permits. And he said, but I just want you guys to know, Donald Trump harasses me 7 days a week about lowering energy costs. So even though we're working on it and it takes time, I just want you guys to know he literally harasses me every day. Like, what are you doing today to get that? So I think there's a lot going on. I think Trump really is fighting for America and the American people. I just think sometimes the big issues, it takes a while to turn a boat around. But he is working on it. And so I have to trust the process. But I think you bring up a great point. If you just get hung up on one issue, you don't see the 99 good things that he did. And so I try to go back and remind myself. And I think as we go into the midterm, they're just going to say, look, no one's coming in. Fentanyl deaths are down. Crime is down. We finally got the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Eggs are down. Milk is down. Food is down. Like, I just think they're going to have a laundry list of success stuff. But that only really is Trump. So my bigger worry is what's the rest of the GOP going to brag about?
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't have much. And that is interesting because it is important to think about how we got to make sure that our bench is sharing in some of these victories here. Some of the foreign policy stuff, Rubio's done a nice job. Vance is great in interviews, but we got to make sure that they don't catch us sleeping next time, because we have an unbelievable bench. Our next 10 guys, I think, are better than anyone they have, but we can't get caught sleeping. We can't get caught sleeping and heading into the general. We got time, though. So, Stephen, I want to make a hard pivot here. Oh, wait, before I do, more good news on the the lawfare front. The Trump DOJ is now going to investigate DC crime stats, which were manipulated. I write about this phenomenon again in Breaking the Law, where I write about how in blue areas where there's no opposition party, the trend is to just stop reporting crime stats, to not enforce crimes, to try to let misdemeanor offenders out right away. It doesn't make a difference. All because that will artificially lower the stats you can present to your constituency, even though things are getting less safe. Now that Trump is cracking down DC, he's looking into that. So more great news there. Okay, Stephen, I want to turn to the war front. What's going on? And the math here is another one where I'm trusting Trump. He's the only guy who could broker peace between Russia, Ukraine, who's out there. But I'm not liking the math here. Putin has now asserted that he wants to be a part of any security guarantee discussions, which makes perfect sense. Zelensky does not want Ukraine to give up any territory, which makes perfect sense. But Zelensky's got to give up territory, and Putin ultimately is going to have to allow for some security guarantees if there's going to be a peace. So I'm not seeing a lot of movement. I'm seeing a lot of the same issues that we were probably identifying to our respective audiences 6 months ago. So are you seeing a lot of movement? Where's your head at here?
Okay, here's where my head is at. So I think Trump is setting up a situation where he can pull the United States out of the situation. So he's been calling for this to end, and then Zelensky bombs deep into Russia, right? He's been calling for this to end. Then they bomb another bridge in Crimea. So he's trying to get all of this done. So what does he do? He says, okay, I'm putting Zelensky on the shelf and I'm going directly to Putin. And Europe doesn't want to be involved. They say it's crazy.
Yeah.
The war hawks of America say it's crazy. He has a great meeting in Alaska, and they still badmouth him. How dare you allow the modern-day Hitler to come to American soil? How dare you do this? You looked weak, right? Next thing you know, all the major European leaders are sitting at the Resolute desk.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And
yes.
so I believe that he has the strength and the determination to get across the finish line, but I think he's going to have to drag most of Europe. And if they are going to not move forward, then I think he knows, wait a minute, we're over 80% of all of the weapons and money for NATO. We're pulling our support and we're backing off. And then Europe will go, well, shoot, we can't have a European war without American taxpayer dollars. We've got to shut this down. And then they may make a move on Zelensky. So I don't know. Trump also pointed out twice during the meetings that Zelensky isn't really an elected president anymore. Those are just like little digs that he's making. So I believe that Trump is going to do whatever he can to get this over the line. The last thing I'll say on this is just in the last couple of days, Trump was heard on camera saying that he's worried that he might go to hell.
Yeah.
And that he feels like ending this Russia-Ukraine war might be the redemption that he needs. Now, I don't buy into any of that, right? Like, I think he's going to be fine, but he's worried about this thing, and he really does see ending the Russia-Ukraine war as the thing that only Trump can do. And Trump has this stubborn determinedness. So I think a lot has happened, but I do believe that we are in gridlock, because Russia's going to want something and Ukraine's not going to want to give it up, and Ukraine's going to want something and Russia's going to say no way. But I just think at some point they're going to have to pull the money.
Interesting, very interesting. And I think that could be exactly how it plays out, but we'll have to see. And I spent a lot of time on yesterday's show talking about Trump's comments about how he wants to get to heaven, and how I feel like that's just so welcome in a leader. It just really, I just wish everyone governed their life that way. The world would be a much better place. Unfortunately, I do feel like a lot of people on the left think that getting into heaven would it would involve harassing people like me and you, Stephen, but which is a
Yeah.
problem. But I think overall, that's a very good mindset. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear him say that. And again, in yesterday's show, I reflect on talking to President Trump about coming to his faith, I think more after the Butler near assassination. But
Let me
more
point
yesterday's
out.
show. Yeah,
Yeah, let
please.
me point out one more thing, Alex.
Sure.
It was leaked from Ukraine's ministry that well over 1 million people have died fighting the Ukraine war on the
Yep.
Ukraine side.
hmm
Now, I know that there's been deaths with Russia, but in that same time frame, Russia's military has increased by 2.3 million people. Russia's war machine is producing weapons and ammunition 24 hours a day. So like they have the upper hand. There's no amount of money that NATO can throw at Ukraine that's going to beat the physical kinetic warfare of Russia. I think Trump understands that as well. So I think he's trying to give Russia an off-ramp, and he's trying to allow Zelensky to walk away with dignity and say, dude,
Yep.
even though you lost, nobody faults you. You've given your absolute best, but you're up against the Russian Empire. And there's no reason to continue this. So I don't know. Only time will tell, but those are just some of the things that I read
this
about.
is good. This is a good point here. And I Steve Bannon was riffing on this earlier, and I just saw this because there's a report in Politico that Germany has no manpower to secure any sort of a peace. And the UK is not a super dominant warfighting force at this point. Steve's interpretation is France talks big but is broke. Poland doesn't want anything to do with any of this. So Russian hackers have leaked that information. Apparently, 1.7 million casualties for Ukraine, 600,000 this year. I mean, it's just bleak. It's just very bleak. And I think Trump is right that he wants to end it. But how does it end? I don't know if I see it yet. So we'll have to go from there. All right. Going from the incredibly dark to the somewhat surreal with what's going on with Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel has had a logo that had a cracker and a barrel, a white guy and a barrel. I don't know if that was the cracker they were thinking of, but a cracker like a white person leaning on a barrel like a whiskey barrel or a beer barrel. And they took that guy off. So we've gone through the era, Stephen, of where we're canceling Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and, black icons. Now we're canceling the white cracker on the Cracker Barrel logo. And the stock is tanking 14% down as of this conversation. What's your take?
I just think it's so stupid. You bring up a good point. It's like when they started removing Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, I thought that's so stupid. These aren't racist. Like this is black culture having a place in American iconography, and they're just removing it. It's kind of like Native Americans are the group least offended by the Redskins, and yet they changed it in order to make Native American people feel better. So to me, it's just such a stupid move. Like, you've got this incredible brand that is doing well, and now you want to completely change that. Like, having that old logo was more about a hardworking farmer who finally gets to sit down at the meal table and have a meal. That's what that was about. It's not about black people can't eat there, because black people love breakfast food and they love lunch and they love dinner just like the rest of us. So the other thing is they're changing all of the restaurants. They're becoming more like an IHOP and less like a country store that you can just go and have a dinner and a show, right? My kids, they would look around. They'd bring out the little glass jar of maple syrup. So they're moving away from the very thing that made them what's the word? Nostalgia. They're getting rid of the nostalgia.
It's their brand. They're steering away from their brand. And I think about this a lot with Breitbart and how sometimes, part of being a good steward of our editorial is to not change what we do. Sometimes, I like people who move fast and break things, but when you have an established brand that people recognize and it resonates with them and already has an identity to them, then sometimes your job is just to be a steward of that brand, is not to be, you're not supposed to update it or upgrade it for the progressive zeitgeist of the moment. And that's what it feels like is happening. And there's this thing going on in the culture where there's this minimalism that's returning, which is, I understand it in some ways, but I was looking at the Chili's logo because I got a Chili's by my house, and they simplified the logo more, and it looks worse to me. It just looks more generic. And I know some private equity brand consultant said do this, and is just not. I don't think it is. It's an improvement, and so sometimes people feel like executives feel like we got to change stuff, and oftentimes if they're woke, it's going to be let's make things more woke. So now we're erasing the Cracker on the Barrel. We've erased the black people. It's funny because I've been making this point for it feels like 15 years, so that's not possible. That I always wish that maybe they could put a guy on his keyboard blogging, maybe a guy with a microphone podcasting. It's like I would love it if what I do was represented on one of these brands. The Cleveland Indians, change it to the Cleveland Podcasters if you don't want to be the Indians anymore. I mean, I'm cool with that. That sounds really great to me. Here's a real blast from the past. Even the original Facebook logo was a silhouette of a guy, and it looked exactly like me. And I loved it. Like, it was unbelievable. It's anyone who wants to pull this up. This is where if I had more sophisticated production quality in the show, I would pull it up. But it was exactly my silhouette. And I got such a kick out of that. Like, I thought that was hilarious. And I don't think Zuckerberg just saw my face and we're going to make that the logo, that guy. No, but it's really funny that was great. Like, why would I want that to change? It was annoying when it changed and became a generic F. And what do you think of the letter F? No good words start with F, Stephen. I mean, it's all the bad words start with F. And then now it's just F everywhere. F, 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 F. It was terrible. And then we just go along with it because why? I don't know. But it's, my point is, I thought woke was dead. Woke is apparently back. Trump is now he wants to clean up the Smithsonian's wokeness, which I applaud. Is woke back, or is it just a coincidence that we're talking about these two things at once? You can get a good cup of coffee a lot of places, but a great cup of coffee, that is special. And when you have it, it becomes just a part of your routine that you absolutely love. And for me, that routine now includes Crockett Coffee. They got the dark roast. That's my favorite. They got a mild, they got a light, they got decaf, they got a mushroom organic blend, they got K-Cups. This is a product that is roasted in our nation's heartland, so you can feel just like a settler or like a tired podcaster and writer. Whatever it is, it's a delicious cup. And there's also some great people behind it. Buck Sexton and Clay Travis founded the company, great broadcasters, friends, and people who really know coffee, clearly. And they also donate. They give back. As part of the proceeds go to Tunnel to Towers Foundation, reminding you that the people at Crockett Coffee, they never forget. But for me, most important in this is the flavor. The flavor is excellent, and that's why I'm having a cup this morning, and I'll have another one probably later in the day because it's that good. CrockettCoffee.com. You put the code Alex in at checkout, 20% off. CrockettCoffee.com. Code Alex at checkout for 20% off. You won't regret it. Give it a shot.
So, darkness is always right on the border of light. And it's always trying to push in. Light is always just pushing out, right? Evil is always on the border of good. I think woke is just going to be on the border, especially with these big corporations where they start feeling bullied, like, oh, you're not doing enough for this community or that community. You need to get up with the times, It's like, I don't know. I just... this is their logo was literally a farmer in suspenders. He looks exhausted. Yeah. He's leaning up against the logo. Come have a meal. We'll take care. We'll pay, we'll do the hard work of cooking for you and your family. The fact that they could turn this into racism is really interesting. I mean, these brands have to be careful. Like suddenly Bud Light giving the middle finger to hardworking Americans, truckers, farmers, blue collar workers, and saying, oh, you know what? We're going to put a boy who thinks he's a girl in pretty outfits, and we're going to tell you that our beer is now snooty beer. Like, what a great way to destroy a brand. It's stupid, and you have to be careful. Like there are some things you have to be careful of. So, for example, Tiana, my children love Princess and the Frog. It's a Disney classic, right? If they suddenly redid that with a white princess, people would go crazy. And it would be wrong. That would be inappropriate, right?
Yes.
It's the story of a Black family that rises up, their love of food, the South, all of that. That would be completely inappropriate. But this changing their brand of what they've been, to me, was just a really stupid corporate move.
Yeah, it's really a great point because it can go both directions. Is that the same way that people were offended when Disney swapped out the one redheaded princess Ariel for a strange looking black woman in the live action Little Mermaid? It goes the other way. If you put a redhead in the Tiana, Princess and the Frog movie, people would also be outraged, but then there wouldn't be any backlash to it. So it's just good to go through that exercise. And I'm looking at you, Joy Reid, and talking about Elvis. Okay, Steve, I got a couple other quick ones for you before we run out of time today. Redistricting, it looks like it's going to go forward in California, the tit for tat redistricting. The math is not there for Democrats. They're better off taking the high road here, I think, because now Ohio and Indiana, it's going to be game on for them to redistrict, and they will get more Republican seats, which will cancel out the new California seats. So this is Newsom thinking he's fighting fire with fire, but it's going to backfire. It's going to backfire. It's going to happen for them. Any reaction? You're a Utahn. How do you say someone from Utah?
Utahn. Sure.
Utahn. Okay. Yeah. So any from your vantage point, not in any one of these states that's redistricting at the moment, what's your take?
One reason that Gavin Newsom shouldn't fight fire with fire is he's not really good at handling fires. But I mean, this is just red states.
And whenever he uses that imagery, and he does, it always is very off-putting. He'll say, "We're fighting fire with fire."
I know.
Not good
and I'm
verbiage.
like, dude, the one photo that they're going to use against you is you standing at the edge of the Palisades while it burns down. Like, it just looks bad. He thinks it looks good. Like, look at me overseeing this. It's like, dude, you guys would rather rule over ashes than make your civilization better. But so he's not good at fighting fire with fire. But I mean, we've been hearing for many years, oh, California might secede, Texas might secede. Why don't we just divide up the country? Republicans move one way, Democrats move another way. I just see this redistricting as that's what's happening. Red states are going to become more red. Blue states are going to become more blue. I just think that this is the natural progression. And Trump is saying, listen, they're going to do this anyway. Why not use the same tactics to get ahead? Because once we're ahead, we can make the country better.
Yeah. Okay. Last one for today. How do you think we're doing economically? Gas prices still seem pretty high. Stock market is kind of flat since February. The Fed's being weird. As we know, I mean, I'm feeling positive overall, but I don't want to get cocky. What do you think? You've a past life in the financial sector, so that's why I'm calling you for this.
Well, the problem is everybody thinks inflation is going to go down, meaning prices are going to go backwards. When they say we're going to get inflation under control, they're talking about future inflation, right? So remember, the Democrats put out that graph where you have the Trump years, and then there's this huge like roller coaster rise. And then they say, look, Trump hasn't gotten rid of inflation like he promised. And every Republican was like, all of the growth came under Biden. All of the crazy costs came under Biden. So some of that is just hard to get under control. I will say milk is under $3 a gallon for me. The price of eggs is down like 50% for me. So there are areas where I think things are better. I think the big one that Trump knows he needs to keep hammering on is Jerome Powell. If they bring down interest rates, that helps mortgages, real estate.
Yes.
I mean, the auto, there's so many businesses that are dealing with high interest rates right now. They need some breathing room, and there's no reason to keep those interest rates high. So I think that once those come down, that will be a huge breath of fresh air for the American people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're pushing forward here. We've been calling them for a while. Breitbart, I don't think Jerome Powell cares, unfortunately, but we're going to keep trying to get through them as best we can. I think they'll come down a little bit. All right, Stephen Gardner, amazing stuff. That was a very, very fast time flew today. So we'll do this again. Stephen is in the stable for Marlo and Friends shows, which we need. These shows are important shows. They help me get through all my busy slate of stuff. Stephen's got an unbelievable YouTube, Stephen Gardner 1, if you want to use the app, but just use your favorite search engine, Stephen Gardner. He's also rumbling as well. You can, if you prefer to rumble.